Netflix is always assuming that you're scrolling on TikTok while you're watching a movie, okay? I don't do that. I do not do that. If I'm watching a movie, I'm not texting you back. I'm watching a movie.
I don't think I've ever drunk champagne before breakfast before. With breakfast on several occasions. But never before.
I've got a wonderful idea.
Hello, welcome back to the Movies for Breakfast podcast. I'm your host, Christy, and today we're doing something a little different. I'm going to do a tier ranking of all of the 2025 releases that I've seen, and there are a lot of them. I've seen people ranking all of the 2025 releases like a strict, in order ranking. I can't do that, okay? I have such a hard time picking favorites. The Letterboxd top 4 is my nightmare. Everything is so different. There's different genres, there's different moods. I just don't feel good about definitively ranking them one on top of the other. But what I can do is kind of put them in tiers and say I liked all of these movies about the same amount. I liked all of these movies about the same amount. And that feels like the best way for me to communicate what my takes of the year are. So that's what we're going to do. Also, I just thought it would be fun to use this little tier maker website that I set up. I downloaded all of the movie posters and I set up the tiers, and I think it'll be a cute, fun little thing to do. If you're on audio, don't worry, I'm going to verbalize everything. You don't need to be watching to get the gist, but it might be more fun on video. I have video episodes on Spotify, so you can listen and occasionally check the video on Spotify if you want, or you can watch this on YouTube, whatever floats your boat. Oscar noms are out. If you want to hear me talk about some of my Oscar nom takes, you can follow me on TikTok or Instagram, where I posted short form reactions to each category and then follow-up reactions when I thought about some snubs that I realized did not get any nominations or didn't get nominations I thought they should have gotten. So go join the conversation about that there if you're interested. Also, everything in this episode is going to be spoiler free. So it doesn't matter if you've seen some of these, none of these, all of these, spoiler-free discussion only. As always, please comment, subscribe on YouTube if you enjoy the content, and give me a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, please. Thank you. All right. Let's get into it then. Let me explain to you my tiers first. A lot of people do these tier videos and they make really funny, clever little tiers. I'm too pedantic for that. I'm too obsessive for that. And like I said, I'm desperate to communicate as accurately as possible my feelings about these movies. So we're doing straight up star ratings, but let me just explain them a little bit. So 5 stars obviously is what I think was a perfect movie, pretty much perfect, memorable, one of my favorites, would rewatch, etc., etc. 4.5 stars is pretty close to that, but for some reason I didn't particularly personally love it, but that means it's probably, in my opinion, technically pretty perfect. 4 stars, there's 1 or 2 things that I think are holding it back. 3.5, I really liked it, but things are wrong with it. 3, solid, good movie, but it's not great. And then below 3 stars is where I would say I distinctly did not like a movie. And then I have a category for haven't watched yet, just so I acknowledge some of the movies that I do still want to see, and I'm not ignoring them. I just haven't gotten to see them yet. This disclaimer goes for every video I make ever. My opinions are just my opinions, and they're just my opinion right now. My thoughts could change in the future. My thoughts now could be different from what I said 2 weeks ago, from what I said yesterday. I'm just a person with an opinion, and also I'm not trying to yuck anyone's yum. So if I say I hated a movie that you loved and it changed your life, that's fine. Remember that this is just an opinion on a very subjective art form. I am not an expert. I'm not an arbiter of what is good or what is bad. I just like movies and I have opinions. So if you feel yourself getting offended, or if I hurt your feelings, take a step back. Remember, what I think is not necessarily important. You can ignore me, whatever you want. Okay, I'm just going to go in the order that I have these posters for. We've got The Voice of Hind, Rajab. Unfortunately, I have not watched it yet. I can't find a showing for it near me, and I also can't find it streaming, but I really would like to see that soon. So hopefully I'll be able to follow up this video having seen it. No Other Choice. I loved No Other Choice. I need to double check my Letterboxd. That's how much my opinions are kind of shaky. Okay, yeah, I did give it 5 stars. No Other Choice, I gave it 5 stars. This was directed by Park Chan-wook. Apologies for any bad pronunciation, but you might also know his work from Handmaiden or Old Boy or lots of other movies. I really, really liked this movie. In my Letterboxd review, I said stunning cinematic sensory experience, Thank you to the Korean filmmakers who always deliver. Yeah, it was beautiful. It was so beautiful to look at. It was so beautiful to listen to. It had amazing sound design. I mean, I was shocked that it had 0 Oscar noms in general, but I was especially shocked that it wasn't nominated for sound or cinematography, because the experience of seeing it in the theater, everything in front of my eyeballs, everything in my ears was just amazing, like incredibly immersive. I know this is not the right way to describe it, but I don't know the technical stuff about sound. It feels like ASMR. You know, when a movie feels like ASMR and you hear all of the footsteps and the leaves and the breathing, it's just beautiful. I liked the story a lot. I liked the discussion of class. I'm unemployed right now, so it was very relevant to me in my life, especially like the question of how much do you sell out? How much do you compromise on your values when you just need a job and need to make money? I thought the acting was great. It had a great balance of humor to it too. I was laughing out loud multiple times in the theater. I just thought it was wonderful, and I am shocked at the lack of Oscar noms, and I hope that that doesn't diminish at all to the public, the movie, and I hope that people still see it and appreciate it for what it is. So I loved No Other Choice. Okay, The Secret Agent. I gave this 4 stars. This is a Brazilian film directed by Kleber Mendonça Filho. Sorry for my pronunciation. Yeah, I saw this in theaters kind of recently with my sister. There were things I really liked about it. I really liked that it was set in 1970s Brazil. I felt transported. I think this was nominated for casting, and also the main lead, Wagner Moura, was nominated for acting. Very much deserved, I think. Yeah, the setting, the set design, costume design, vibes, music, acting was all really great and fun. It was just kind of boring and kind of slow, and I didn't like totally feel invested in what was going on in front of me. I felt like this is really cool. I'm happy to be here hanging out. But it wasn't as like tight of a screenplay or like compelling of a story as some of my other favorites of the year, which is why it's in 4 stars. I still totally think it's worth going to see if you're interested, especially if you're into Latin American history and culture. For sure, go see The Secret Agent. Also, it references Jaws a lot because it takes place, I think, in 1976 or 77. Jaws was released in the US in 75, but it would have been showing in other parts of the world like in the following years, I guess. All of the references to Jaws really scratched an itch for me. I love Jaws. I wrote like a paper on Jaws in high school film class. Iconic. Jaws is really about corruption, like a local government being corrupt. And obviously, like the political context in this movie, there's a discussion of corruption and how that affects people's lives. So it made sense. I love that. All right, next up we have Rental Family. I just watched Rental Family yesterday. I gave Rental Family 3.5 stars. Now that I'm looking at it, this is the point of this exercise. I think that I liked it about as much as I liked The Secret Agent. So I'm inclined to either move Rental Family up or move The Secret Agent down. I think I might move The Secret Agent down. Oh, I'm sorry. Because also I saw The Secret Agent in theaters and I saw Rental Family at home. I rented Rental Family, if you will. And I tend to inflate my ratings for anything I saw in theaters just because the experience makes it better for me. Like I will walk out of a theater and be like, 5 stars, I love that movie. And then the next day I actually think about it and I'm like, no, 4 stars. But the experience of the theater, because I love the movie theater so much, I think kind of makes me appreciate movies a little bit more. So if I saw Rental Family in theaters, maybe I would have liked it more, but I don't know. I think both of them belong in 3.5 stars. Like I wouldn't enthusiastically recommend and be like, you have to watch this movie, but I would say like, yeah, it's a good movie and I liked it. And if you're interested, it's worth watching. That's kind of where those both lie. Rental Family was a really interesting premise though. It takes place in Japan. The premise of the Rental Family company that the movie is named for is that they hire actors to perform roles in someone's life. So like one of their popular services is apologies, where men will hire a woman actress to pretend to be his mistress that his wife caught him cheating with and apologize to the wife and say like, I'll leave your husband alone now. Things like that. And it's of course like it's a little bit bizarre, but it also puts itself in the context of like Japanese culture and society and why people would need to construct these false realities using the service, like tensions in their family or things that they just can't be honest about. Whatever it is, it's It's a pretty interesting take. It's not just meant to be like bizarre and satirical, but it is also pretty funny a lot of the time. And our main character we follow is Brendan Fraser, who I do have a soft spot for Brendan Fraser. He was cute. He was really likable and sweet in this. He's kind of like the, dopey American living in Japan. He's not having a super successful acting career, and he gets this gig with the rental family company, and it leads him to all of these connections with people he might not otherwise have met. And it's interesting. It's sentimental. It's sweet. It's funny. I liked it. I'm going to leave it in 3.5. Okay, I can move things later. I really liked the acting. I liked Mari Yamamoto. She's wonderful. She's so beautiful. It was directed by Hikari, also known as Mitsuyo Miyazaki. Oh, she did Beef, the show. I liked that show. I can see how she did Beef. That's a similar weird vibe. Okay, anyway, let's move on. Twinless. I watched Twinless this past week. This is one of the ones that I crammed to finish. Someone recommended me to this in my TikTok comments a long time ago. Thank you for recommending it to me. I'm glad I watched it. The premise of Twinless, maybe I should just be reading you kind of the synopses. 2 men who lost their respective twin brothers develop a growing friendship after meeting in a support group. However, both harbor long-hidden secrets that threaten to tear them apart. This was directed by James Sweeney. I think he also wrote it. He stars in it as one of the 2 leads, the other one being Dylan O'Brien. Dylan O'Brien, anyone who knows me knows I love Dylan O'Brien. Okay, I'm OG. I'm Teen Wolf generation. That's my man. You know what I mean? No, but genuinely, I do think he's a great actor. And I really enjoyed seeing him in this role. He plays a man who lost his twin brother. So we also do see him play his twin brother in like flashbacks, and seeing him play these 2 different characters that were very different from each other, but brothers, similar to Michael B. Jordan in Sinners. I think it really credits the actor for being able to do that and really embodying 2 different people. I thought he was great. And the characters were a bit more complex and different from previous roles he's done, so I'm happy for him getting to do that. I just didn't totally love the screenplay. I didn't love the writing. It was an interesting premise and things about it definitely, like, I cared about the characters, but I didn't love the direction it went in, and I found it difficult to connect to in some ways. So I don't know. But like, I'm really happy for James Sweeney to keep making movies, and I will support him and go see whatever he does next. But this one in particular didn't like totally hit for me. So I gave this 3 stars. Also, there's this one character, Marcy, obsessed with her, love her to death. That was great writing of that character and great acting. Icon, love her. We all need a Marcy or need to be a Marcy. So Twinless, 3 stars. Next up, we've got Zootopia 2. I haven't watched it yet. I loved Zootopia, the first one. I think I'm just waiting for Zootopia 2 on streaming, but looking forward to it. Okay, then we have, is this Blue Moon? I can't read. Yeah, I didn't like Blue Moon. Sorry, y'all. That's with Ethan Hawke. I gave it 2 stars. I watched it 2 days ago. My main problem with Blue Moon is within like 2 minutes of watching, I looked up, is Blue Moon adapted from a stage play? Because I hate basically every movie adapted from a stage play. I don't think we should be adapting stage plays to the screen 99% of the time. There's a reason why it was written for the stage. Certain things make more sense on stage and certain things make more sense on film, and they rarely overlap, in my opinion. And this was shot and written and acted like a stage play with a camera there. And I really don't like that. It's not my style. It was very theatrical. It was very monologue heavy. I completely understand why Ethan Hawke is nominated for the acting and why people are discussing his acting in this as being phenomenal. It is. He's great. I really like Ethan Hawke, but I don't like the movie and I don't like the role. It is also like kind of biopic. It's not about this guy's whole life, who he's playing, but it is a true story. And I am not familiar with the man he's playing or the role that he's played in like the history of theater and why he's so beloved. So I just kind of didn't care. I was really bored. And there were a lot of jokes that also didn't land for me that I felt like were supposed to be really funny, but it was that very corny stage humor that works on stage, but it doesn't work on screen. So I really feel like this, as like an homage to theater, an homage to like a great man in theater, it should have been a play. It could have been a really awesome play, but it was really boring on screen. That's just my opinion. Next up, we've got The Testament of Anne Lee. I haven't seen it yet. I would really like to see it. I want to support Amanda Seyfried. I think she's incredible. I've loved her my whole life since Mean Girls and Mamma Mia. So I look forward to seeing that, but I haven't seen it yet. I also did not see The Handmaid, or no, what is it called? The Maid. Her movie with Sydney Sweeney, but I didn't include this here and I haven't really talked about it because I don't really want to support that project. I don't want to support Sydney Sweeney. Given her political statements or lack thereof, I don't support her in the arts, and I don't want to punish Amanda Seyfried unfairly for that, but it is what it is. Okay, next up we've got One of Them Days. I watched that yesterday. I really liked One of Them Days. I gave it 3.5 stars. Joining Rental Family and The Secret Agent. I thought it was really funny. It was a good romp. I like a sort of like all within a day's work, chaotic comedy drama. And that's what this is. It stars Keke Palmer and SZA. Love both of them. This is the first time I've seen SZA act. I don't know if it's her first time acting ever. I think it kind of is. I thought she was great. Now, granted, her character, from what I know from her music and interviews, her character Alyssa was not too different from herself, but I thought she was really funny, and she made a character whose actions are really unlikable. She made the character bearable and like injected a good amount of warmth and likability to her character. Keke Palmer is perfect as the more like type A neurotic half of their duo. They're best friends. They have to make rent. That's kind of the premise. This was Keke reconnecting with True Jackson VP because she was like the responsible adult in the situation, trying to be a professional and really struggling. I like laughed out loud multiple times. There were lots of little jokes in there that you could miss if you're not even really listening. It was also extremely stressful. I was knitting while watching, and I was knitting like furiously and making like really tight loops because I was distraught. I was stressed for these two girls. Far more stressed than I was watching Marty Supreme because I did not care what happened to Marty. I really cared about these two girls, was really rooting for them and stressed out for them. That's what makes a movie like this work. This was better than Marty Supreme for me. And people are gonna like contest that and think I'm being provocative or whatever just because this is like a comedy on Netflix instead of an A24 shot on film theatrical release. I don't care. It's a better movie, in my opinion. Okay. Who do we have next? The Chronology of Water. I haven't seen it yet. I had bought tickets to go see it and I couldn't go on the day that I planned to. And then now we have this huge snowstorm in New York and I'm not leaving my house unless absolutely necessary. So apologies to Kristen Stewart, but I can't wait to watch it. I love Kristen. I grew up with Kristen, Panic Room, Twilight, the whole shebang. I think she's fabulous. I think she's so smart. I love her resistance to conformity in Hollywood and that she's always been herself and she doesn't care that people call her, or I don't know if she doesn't care, but she doesn't succumb to the pressure on her to be a more palatable feminine woman for the public. She is who she is. I respect that about her and I can't wait to see her directorial debut. Oh, J. Kelly. Whatever, man. Literally whatever. I think I give this 2 stars. I've never really connected with a Noah Baumbach movie. I don't find his narratives or storytelling compelling. It doesn't connect with me personally. I really just didn't care. That's the heart of it. I did not care. I thought the jokes were not funny. Similar to Blue Moon. I kept being like, this isn't funny for me. It's not my sense of humor. It's not like I know some people were kind of like offended because it takes a very sympathetic view towards celebrity and like the loneliness and isolation of celebrity. That's actually fine with me. I do think that's a real thing and it doesn't have to be whiny, but something about Noah Baumbach's movies always feels whiny and woe is me and not as self-aware as he thinks he is. So it's not like the topic that's the problem. It's somehow the tone and how I perceive it. I just feel myself rolling my eyes and being like, I don't care. I don't really care about this. Sorry, I didn't like J. Kelly. Who's next? Hedda, I have not watched. That's on my list. I don't know anything about it. The Smashing Machine, I watched yesterday, just in time. This, if you don't know, this is Benny Safdie's movie from this year, younger brother of Josh Safdie, who did the much more talked about in the press, Marty Supreme. I didn't realize that they have beef. Like, I thought they both went on to do their individual projects just because, but it turns out, no, there was like a rift between them. And it has a lot to do with, it seems like, rumors of like really bad on-set treatment of minors and women, and Josh being potentially the one who was like in charge in those scenarios and did not protect his actors while Benny was there and maybe didn't know the extent of it. And I strongly hesitate to absolve Benny of anything that Josh is accused of doing when they were both supposedly co-directing. That being said, I watched both Marty Supreme and The Smashing Machine before reading about any of that. I looked this up after seeing The Smashing Machine. So just being objective, I did not really like either of the movies. And I really do feel for Benny being compared ruthlessly to Josh and everyone being like, Josh made this amazing movie, Marty Supreme, and Benny made this shit movie that nobody saw. That's harsh to me, especially because I don't even really like Marty Supreme. So The Smashing Machine, I gave it 2 stars. I didn't really like it. It stars Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson playing this real life UFC fighter, Mark Kerr, in the 90s, and Emily Blunt playing his girlfriend at the time, Dawn, I forget her last name. Of course, The Rock went through this whole like insane physical transformation. His body looks inflamed and ridiculous. No, not derogatory. I mean, I think he knows that it looks insane, but he did a ton of like UFC training or whatever and probably performance enhancing drugs. And he has crazy facial prosthetics to make him look more like Mark Kerr. And Dawn, Emily Blunt, is a very like Long Island kind of tacky like girlfriend girl with the nails and the hair and the makeup and like very like 90s early 2000s style. I loved that for Emily Blunt. I'm from Long Island, okay? You can take the girl off the island, but you can't take the cheetah print out of my bones. Everything I own is cheetah print. I'm a sucker for like a real thick tacky French nail. Sometimes nothing hits the way that the like 2000s Long Island Italian American glam hits. And I have to say, Emily Blunt looked really hot. It suited her. And her American accent was really good. I think they were both really good. Actually, the acting, I just, like I said, I didn't really care about the story. I found myself wondering what the point was, because if the point was to like have a sympathetic view on these extreme athletes and especially fighters and the toll that it takes on their mind and body, I already thought that. Like, I already was on board with that before knowing anything about UFC or watching this movie. Kind of all I think about when I think about professional athletes is like, I hope they're okay. Their bodies are being exploited for all of this money and fame, and it is kind of brutal and kind of gladiator vibes. So as that was unfolding, I was kind of like, I know. That's what I thought in the first place. And knowing that this was a true story and just the way that it went, I think that Benny Safdie must have been a huge fan of Mark Kerr and of like the early UFC days. Knowing that Josh and Benny are both huge sports fans in general, and that often like inspires their work. Obviously, Marty Supreme is also allegedly a sports movie. Interestingly enough, The Smashing Machine also had the competition set in Japan, much like Marty Supreme. So I don't know. I wonder how much that inspiration has to do with them having visited Japan or talked a lot about Japan together. I don't know, but it didn't really hit for me. I was bored, and I also found it hard to watch, like seeing not even the fighting necessarily, but there was some just like really gross like body stuff, not body horror, but it was a bit much for me personally. And I didn't connect with it. So unfortunately, that was 2 stars for me. But let it be known that I'm not putting Benny down in comparison to Josh. I'm not saying Josh is the better Safdie brother director. I just, looking at it objectively, I didn't like The Smashing Machine. Sorry, Benny. All right. Die My Love, I haven't seen yet. We're going to put that on haven't watched yet. I really want to be honest with you, I'm a little scared to watch it alone. I know it's not like horror, it's more of like a psychological drama or thriller, but like the themes of motherhood and postpartum and marriage, it makes me a bit nervous emotionally. I think I need to watch that with someone or like during the day. So I'm just a little bit nervous for it, but I have Mubi. Thanks to Natasha. My sister got me that for Christmas. Thank you, Natasha. Love you. So I'm going to watch it. I just like haven't quite worked up the moment yet. All right. Next up, we've got The Running Man. I also haven't seen that. I didn't get a chance to see it in theaters. Like for a lot of November and December, I was home at my mom's house and not in the city at my apartment. So I didn't have as much mobility to like hop over to the movie theater every day the way that like I can here. So I didn't get to see it, and it didn't feel important enough to me to like bend over backwards to find a way to see it. So I think I'm just going to wait for streaming and I'll watch it. I like Stephen King and I like Glenn Powell and I like a good action movie. It has potential to me, but I don't know. We'll have to see. Materialists, I finally watched that this week or last week. It was somehow even worse than I thought it was going to be based on what everyone said. So definitely putting it in below 3 stars. I think I gave it 1.5. Yeah, I gave it 1.5 stars. I just couldn't believe how bad it was. Like, it was the weirdest writing. No one felt human or real. The whole premise and the idea of like dating for money or dating for love was so shallow. It did not explore any nuance about what it means to be poor, what poverty does to people. It doesn't explore the idea of like generosity apart from tax bracket. Like, what does it mean to be generous? What does it mean to align with someone about money in a relationship? It was literally just like, you're a billionaire or you're homeless. And it felt just absolutely ridiculous. It didn't say anything interesting because it set up the most like straw man extreme possibility rather than anything with any kind of like personal nuance or complication. It was so stupid. It was stupid. I can't believe these actors read the script and did it. Sorry. I mean, Dakota Johnson looked beautiful. I can say that. Chris Evans always looks beautiful. Pedro Pascal always looks beautiful. But I didn't care at all. I was almost like offended by this being in front of my face. So that's how I felt about Materialists. Frankenstein. That's my next episode. Full episode Frankenstein. I've been taking my time because I went back and I read the book after seeing the movie, and I read both versions of the book, and I did my research on Mary Shelley. I'm a huge Guillermo del Toro fan. One of my favorite directors ever. I just think he's incredible. And I was really excited to watch this movie. And I don't think it's as bad as some people think it is, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit disappointed, since my expectations are so high for Guillermo del Toro and for like the IP, the story of Frankenstein. It's so iconic and it's such a good classic story. My expectations were like sky high. And ultimately, this is a Netflix production. Netflix always imposes limitations on movies that I think otherwise could have been amazing, which is really sad and frustrating to see since they're increasingly like becoming one of the major producers. I gave it 4 stars though. So like, for all my talk about like I was kind of disappointed, I still gave it 4 stars. It just wasn't 4.5 or 5. And I think I had hoped for it to be among my favorites of the year, to be 5. It was sensitive and beautiful. Set design was beautiful. Costume was beautiful. Cinematography, not the best ever. Again, Netflix disease. It was nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay, but I have questions about the adaptation. I have questions about the changes from the book. I will discuss that in much more detail and like do a deep dive on that on my Frankenstein episode, so I can like explain what I mean more. But I had some issues with that, and I felt like it had the Netflix disease of saying everything in dialogue. Nothing can be left unsaid. Everything has to be made explicit. Netflix is always assuming that you're scrolling on TikTok while you're watching a movie. Okay? I don't do that. I do not do that. If I'm watching a movie, I'm not texting you back. I'm watching a movie. Okay, that's like the whole point. To me, you look at the big screen and you focus. I get it. We all struggle with our attention span. Short form content is frying our brains. It's not like a moral high ground I'm on that I have some great attention span. I literally have ADHD. But I don't appreciate movies being put in front of me assuming that I'm not giving my full attention. Because then when I am giving my full attention, I'm not being rewarded for it. I'm not being treated like it because you're saying everything that I could possibly think in my own head while processing. You're saying it in the dialogue explicitly, making it so that there's no point in really paying attention. And I find that so frustrating. It really cheapens movies that otherwise could have been great. So I'll discuss that, like I said, in more detail. That being said, I think all of the acting was fantastic. I think that Oscar Isaac was amazing as Victor Frankenstein. Mia Goth was amazing as Elizabeth. Jacob Elordi was amazing as the creature. I didn't have really expectations either way for Jacob Elordi because I haven't seen him in like anything other than The Kissing Booth, I think. Was he in The Kissing Booth? I think so. I don't watch Euphoria. He was in Saltburn, which I didn't watch either. I guess I'm going to have to watch it because I'm doing a whole Wuthering Heights deep dive. Anyways, I think maybe my 4 stars for it is also just because I love the story so much on a fundamental level and I really wanted to like this. So I'm like giving it the benefit of the doubt everywhere that I can. But I can understand if you're not a huge Guillermo del Toro fan, if you haven't read the book or you don't love the story, or if you have read the book and you're super attached to the original story, to Mary Shelley's story, I can see how this would be disappointing, and I totally understand why some people didn't like it as much, but I was really rooting for it, and I still am, and I'm trying to make the best of it. So, Frankenstein, I give her 4 stars. Hamnet. Let's talk about Hamnet, baby. Hamnet, of course, is a 5 stars for me. I still haven't been able to do my full episode on it because I'm waiting on a friend who read the book, who I think would be great for a discussion. I'm waiting for her to see the movie so we can sit down together and discuss. But I've seen it several times and I have my notes on it and I'm ready to go. I thought Jessie Buckley was a revelation, of course. Paul Mescal was amazing. The kids were amazing. Joe Alwyn. I thought Joe Alwyn was amazing. Chloe Zhao is an icon. I've loved Chloe Zhao since Nomadland. I'm a huge fan. I was so excited to go see this when I found out she had directed it. And it exceeded all my expectations. It was just such a beautiful, sensitive, delicate, powerful, raw. I don't know. I can't think of enough words to describe it, but I'm excited to talk about it in more detail. Hamnet and No Other Choice so far are my 2 top tier 5-star movies of everything I've discussed so far. Okay, should we keep going? Let's keep going. Who's next? Mickey 17. Oh, Mickey 17. I'm sorry. Below 3 stars. This one hurts. I saw this. I can't believe this came out in 2025 because it was so long ago, but I guess it was in like March. It was well before I ever started the podcast, and I went to see it in theaters. Yeah, in March. Oh, actually, I gave it 3.5 stars. No, it gets 3 stars. Yeah, I definitely give it 3.5 stars out of bias because I love Bong Joon-ho. He's one of my favorite directors ever, much like Guillermo del Toro. And I really want him to get back in the studio and keep making movies. But this one didn't hit for me. It was a bit silly and shallow compared to the depth of his usual work. And I attribute that basically entirely to the source material because I tried to read the book before seeing the movie. I always try to read books before I see the movie adaptation if possible because I'm also a huge reader and I love books as well as movies. And I couldn't get through the book. The writing was so juvenile. It felt super PG-13. It felt super young adult. It was not an adult sci-fi concept. It was just goofy in this way that did not hit for me. And I think it was not up to the level of Bong Joon-ho's filmmaking, honestly. I don't know. I love Robert Pattinson. I thought he was great in it. And there were things about it that were really good. But the whole Mark Ruffalo character was really annoying to me and it didn't strike me as funny. Toni Collette was good, but it was just, I didn't love it. And I love basically everyone involved in it. And I want it to be better. And I really, really think this was an issue of source material, unfortunately. But yeah, that's Mickey 17. Okay. Then we've got The Naked Gun. I'm going to put that below 3 stars. I think I gave it 2 stars. I gave it 2.5 stars. It's a remake of the original The Naked Gun franchise from the 80s. Yeah, I just wasn't the target audience. I think if you loved the original series or if this is really your sense of humor, you would like it. I did find some of it really funny and I loved Liam Neeson and Pamela together for sure. I basically only went because I love Pamela Anderson and I wanted to see it, but I'm just not the target audience. The very slapstick, bizarre and innuendo humor, it's not for me. It didn't click for me, but I thought it was fun. It was a romp. You can tell that everyone had fun making it. So again, if you know that franchise and you like it, I think this would be really fun to go see or to see on streaming now, but it just wasn't. It was very obviously not for me. Okay, then we have The Roses, which I gave 4 stars. This stars Benedict Cumberbatch and Olivia Colman, 2 absolute icons. I love them both. Directed by Jay Roach. It was interesting. It's a story of this marriage falling apart between a very type A, control freak architect, Benedict Cumberbatch, and a very free-spirited, type B, artistic chef, Olivia Colman. They fall in love, get married, have kids, and then we kind of follow the dynamics of their marriage, and eventually it's kind of deterioration, which sounds dark, but it was extremely funny. I love British comedy. I love British humor. This parts of this reminded me a lot of Fleabag, not just because Olivia Colman is in it, but because of the absolutely brutal, nasty, mean things people would say, but it being irresistible to laugh because it is so funny and bizarre. This had that vibe. I think the reason it's not ranked higher is because there were some of the bits went on too far and too long and kind of lost me. And it occasionally felt more like a collection of SNL skits than a narrative. But when it was good, it was really good. I went with my sister and we were cracking up. It just wasn't the most impactful or memorable, but it was fun and it was funny. And I would recommend watching it if you're in the mood for a comedy. All right, next up we've got Train Dreams. Train Dreams was okay. It was solid. I gave it 3 stars. It's on Netflix and it's about this man who is a logger and his kind of life story. Listen, when I found out that it was adapted from a novella, it all made sense because it felt so slow and so little story to sustain it. I was waiting for much more, but it's very much a vibes movie. Okay, it's very much a novella stretched out to be a feature film. It should have been a short film. I think you adapt a novella into a short film. That's the appropriate translation. So this just felt a bit stretched out and it was pretty low on content. Low on story, but it was beautiful cinematography, so I think it was rightfully nominated for cinematography. It was good acting. It had very tender moments that I felt moved by. It was not bad, but it was also not great. So 3 stars feels just right. After the Hunt. I'm going to drop After the Hunt into 3 stars as well. I did a full episode on After the Hunt, so if you want to like hear my detailed thoughts on it, you can totally go listen to that one. I had mixed feelings about it. I didn't find it destructive or like super offensive in the way that I think some people may have received it to be, but I definitely didn't think it was a great story about sexual assault in academia. I don't think it was a great story about power dynamics. It was very on the nose for me, and it was very self-indulgent and pretentious. Sorry. Again, it's tough for me to say that because I love Iowa Debris and I love Julia Roberts. So I saw this for them and their performances were great. I just didn't like the story for some specific reasons. Cinematography was great. Directing was great. I think what I said in the episode, and I stand by, is like the execution of the film, the execution of the script, the production was beautiful. Really good. I just didn't like the script. So that like caps you basically at 3 stars. You can't be better than 3 stars if I don't like the story. But to give credit where credit is due for like everything that they did right, I don't want to totally put it in the lowest category. Bugonia, I gave Bugonia 4 stars. I really liked it. I think I might have given it 3 or 3.5 prior to doing my episode on it, but then I recorded an episode with my sister Natasha discussing Bugonia. And sometimes this happens where like once I actually sit down and talk through it, especially with someone who maybe liked it a little bit more than I did, I soften a little and I came to appreciate it more after talking to her about it and hearing like her perspective on things. So I did end up giving it 4 stars. I think it was a really good movie. Jesse Plemons having no Oscar nom is tough to swallow. I think he was incredible. I also thought Aidan Delbus, who plays his cousin Dawn, was incredible, and this was like his first big acting gig ever. He was 17 when he filmed it. So I would have loved to see Aidan Delbus get a nom, but I'm sure he has like his whole career ahead of him for that. Emma Stone obviously was incredible. I love Emma Stone. I think she's hilarious. I think she's so unencumbered as an actor. She like fully commits to every bit, and that's what makes her great. It was weird, definitely weird. It was interesting. I just think the reason I didn't like it better is because parts of it felt like they were maybe an unfinished idea, or like not a totally like profound idea, and maybe it focused a bit too much on style over substance at points for me. But it was really good, and like if someone told me it was one of their favorites of the year, I would not bat an eyelash. I just didn't like love it, but I thought it was a really good movie. You know what I mean? All right, Caught Stealing. I gave Caught Stealing 3.5 stars. Listen, this was basically like tailor-made for me. Okay, it takes place in New York, in Lower Manhattan, where I live. I went to see it in Lower Manhattan multiple times. People were whispering and pointing at the screen because we recognized the locations. I saw my own block, my own street on it. So that's just fun. Like, it is just really fun to see yourself and your life experience on screen. Although, of course, like this takes place in the 90s. So it was just very fun for me to imagine, like, what if I lived here 20 years ago? Oh my God, 30 years ago. Wow. 30. Wow. I'm an adult now. I was born in 99. Anyway, I liked Austin Butler in it. I think he's actually a really great actor. And I partly think that because I never saw Elvis, and I probably never will. So I know him from Dune and Caught Stealing, and I think he's really great in both. It was a romp. It was like action, gotta go do this, gotta go do that, stressful, blah, da, 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 da. And what I said, I have a whole episode on Caught Stealing as well, if you want to go listen to that. I think what I said that I stand by is it felt like a Safdie brothers movie, but with a much more hopeful and optimistic view on like life and humanity in a way. So I enjoyed that because I like the like hijinks and chaos and danger and action, but I don't gravitate towards like super bleak or nihilistic viewpoints in film. It's just not resonant with me. Eddington is one of my more controversial opinions of the year. I gave it 3 stars. A lot of people were upset with me for not liking it more. I don't know what to tell you. I just think what I think, and I didn't love it. I find Ari Aster really annoying. Sorry. I think, and this is gonna come off a little harsh. Just keep in mind, I'm not talking about you if you like this movie. I'm talking about Ari Aster's work and him as a director. I don't know him as a person. In his work, it comes off that he thinks he's smarter than he is, and he thinks he's saying something more profound than he is. And stop. Before you tell me I'm too stupid and I don't get it, take a deep breath, okay? Take a step back. I'm not too stupid to get it just because I didn't like it. And just because I say it's not as deep as he thinks it is, okay? Thank you. It's my opinion. Cue the Housewives reunion meme. So I have a full episode on that if you want to hear more of my thoughts on why it fell a little bit flat for me. But I did think it was beautiful cinematography by Darius Khondji, who also did Marty Supreme. And Eddington was shot on digital, but I really thought it was shot on film. He made it look like film in a lot of ways. And then Marty on film was like truly the cinematography that I think he's capable of. So credit for where credit is due for that. It had its moments of being funny and deep or whatever, but for the most part I was kind of like, whatever. Sue me. 3 stars for Eddington. Who's next? Okay, we're down to our final few. F1, you already know. Below 3 stars. I fucking hated this movie, guys. I think I gave it 1 star. I'm a huge fan of Formula One. I became a huge fan just around before the time this movie came out, coincidentally. But the more I've gotten to know the sport and the more I followed the sport, even since seeing the movie, the worse and worse it gets. I found it, and I'm not just being like a pedantic sports fan, I'm being like, it's not accurate. I did a whole episode on it. I actually have done 2 episodes on it. I disliked this movie so much that I came home from watching it, opened up a voice note and recorded an episode of this podcast for the first time and was like, I'm starting a movie podcast because I need to rant about this movie. I didn't edit it at all. I just posted that voice note on an RSS feed and I was like, okay, well, I have a podcast now. So then later I did like a more polished, in-depth episode once I had hit my stride of how I structure the full movie reviews. But you can go listen to one or both of those and hear why I had such a problem with it. But the top line is I found it very misogynistic and offensive. And I think Brad Pitt ruined it. I think Brad Pitt made this into an ego project. I think he just wanted to be like Top Gun guy, and it was really annoying and transparent and bad. And I'm upset because I love Lewis Hamilton, okay? I love Lewis Hamilton. I think he's an incredible person. I think he is always advocating for causes that I also believe in. And unfortunately, even though he was a producer on this movie, I don't feel like this movie represents his professed views on the sport. I just think there's a lot wrong with it. Just go listen to my episode. Sometimes it is fun to just rant when you don't like something. It's a little bit more freeing than when I'm trying to be more balanced. So honestly, that's one of my favorite episodes because I go in on the movie and on Brad Pitt. All right, next up, we have another 5-star. It was just an accident. I just posted that episode a couple days ago. You can go watch my full episode on It Was Just an Accident. But yeah, this was one of my favorites of the year by far. It's an Iranian film directed by Jafar Panahi. I went into it knowing almost nothing about it, and that's kind of how I like to go into movies, so I don't really know what I want to say about it. But It deals with some more explicit themes of Iranian political repression than Jafar Panahi's previous works, even though he had already been in trouble with the government for his movie making. And he made this movie in secret in Iran illegally, which I think is incredibly brave. And the tension of that, the energy of that really comes through in the movie. It's a beautiful, sensitive exploration of like humanity amongst political discord and how different people react to violence, how different people conceptualize justice and retribution and redemption after being wronged. I just thought it was incredibly human, hopeful, honest, and it had its good moments of humor as well. I think it's a must watch. It won top prize at Cannes. I can't believe it wasn't nominated for Best Picture for the Oscars. That is insane to me, especially when F1 is on that list. Don't piss me off. Go watch that movie and then watch my episode on it. And then we've got K-pop Demon Hunters, another 5 stars. I'm not being ironic. I'm not joking around. I loved that movie. I'm not a huge K-pop stan, but I know my way around the K-pop world. I'm a fan, a casual fan of some K-pop groups. So I was like, my interest was piqued enough by this. I also do love animation. Like, I'm a big fan of animated movies, even if they are generally more targeted towards like families and children. I just really enjoy animation. And I thought the animation style in this was really cool. It was reminiscent to some extent of like the Spider-Man Sony animated movies, which I adore. The music was amazing, as we all know. It was great. It was so authentic to like a Korean or Korean American point of view. It showed the most beautiful, authentic friendships among young women. The demon part of the story woven in was like very steadily rooted in real Korean folklore and history and culture, which was very cool. And I talk a lot more about that in my episode. So if you haven't seen it, it's on Netflix. You got to see it. Even if you're an adult with no kids, it's you can enjoy it at any age. I thought it was fantastic. And then you can go watch my episode on it. Marty Supreme, another controversial opinion that people get mad at me for, much like Eddington. I gave it 3 stars. I didn't like it that much. After my conversation with Woodland, we did a 2-part episode. If you know Woodland from @NotWoodland, he has a podcast 10 at a time. And so like we did first part of the episode on his podcast and the second part on mine. So it's like a full 2.5 hour conversation if you want to listen to it. And like through talking about it with him, much like with Bugonia, I think I did begrudgingly appreciate things about it a bit more. But overall, like I stand by the hype and the expectation was insane compared to the movie I saw, which just kind of made me feel like, yeah, okay, good movie. But there were so many things about it I didn't like and so many things that didn't click for me. I think I'm off on Safdie. I think I'm kind of tired of the same thing. And rather than it feeling like a signature style, it feels to me like, what else you got? So that's just my opinion. Hey, just my opinion, remember? My opinion. It's just my opinion. I don't hate Timothée Chalamet. I don't love his public persona, like as a celebrity, but that's like a different thing from hating a person or hating on a person. I've seen like, I think every movie he's ever been in, and I will continue to do so. I think he's a great actor, but I don't see how this performance was one of his best in any way. So yeah, just go listen to the episode on Marty Supreme and I get way more into defending my opinion on it and explaining why I didn't love it. One Battle After Another. I loved One Battle After Another. I think I gave it 4.5 stars though, not 5. Oh no, I gave it 5 stars. I'm going to keep it at 5. Okay. I'm a huge Paul Thomas Anderson fan. I think he's amazing. I loved There Will Be Blood. I didn't love Licorice Pizza, but I was still really excited for One Battle and it was great. It was probably my favorite in theater experience of any movie I saw this year. It was so great to see in theaters. Beautiful cinematography, beautiful acting, exciting screenplay, exciting world building, great characters. What a stacked cast. I don't even like Leonardo DiCaprio, famously, but he really won me over in this and I thought his character was great. I thought Chase Infinity was great. Sean Penn was incredible. Sean Penn better get that Best Supporting Actor Oscar, I'm telling you. Teyana Taylor was obviously amazing. I loved the costume design, hair, makeup, set design. I just loved everything about it, really. I love that movie. It's one of the most memorable of the year. It's one that I would rewatch multiple times. I've already seen it twice. I would watch it a 3rd time. It's good stuff. And I love PTA and I want more. I want more PTA, please. I also have a full episode on that. So if you've seen the movie and you want to talk about it, or you don't plan on seeing it and you want to know the deal pre-Oscars, go watch my episode on One Battle After Another. Sentimental Value. We're just hitting banger after banger. I don't know. I didn't intentionally put these in any order, but like all my favorites are at the end. That's another 5 stars for me. Sentimental Value, definitely one of my favorites of the year. It was incredible. I have to say it was incredible. I was so deeply moved by it. It's a Norwegian film by Joachim Trier, starring Renate Reinsve and Stellan Skarsgård and Inga Ipsdotter Elias and Elle Fanning. Small cast, incredible cast. I think every single one of the names I just said was nominated for an acting Oscar. Rightfully so. The acting was insane, especially Renata for me was like just incredible. It's a story about generational trauma. It's a story about sisterhood, familial love, about connection through art, communication through art. It's really, really very sensitive and beautiful. Highly recommend everyone sees it. And surprise, surprise, I also have a full episode on Sentimental Value, so you can go listen to that episode as well. I swear I'm not doing this specifically as an advertisement, but I am proud of myself and how many detailed reviews I've cranked out so far. Then we have Sinners. Anyone who knows the pod or listens to me will know already. 5 stars. Loved Sinners. One of the earliest releases of the year that I gave 5 stars. Like it came out a bit ahead of the typical like wave of Oscar bait movies that come out later in the year. So I saw it in theaters when it released the first time and then I rewatched it again to do my review. And then it was showing in theaters again in October for Halloween, which I think is incredible. I've got a full episode on Sinners. You can go watch that, but I'm very happy that it was nominated for Best Film. I mean, it was nominated for everything. It broke the record for Oscar noms, 16 Oscar noms. Really happy for Ryan Coogler. I'm really happy for Michael B. Jordan. I think Michael B. Jordan was incredible. I'm really happy for Wunmi Mosaku for her Best Supporting Actress nomination. I think she deserves that. It was great. It was really great. One thing about me is I'm obsessed with vampires, okay? I'm like the vampire generation. I grew up reading Twilight with all of my cousins. We were all girls except for our youngest, but we would all read these books together, watch the movies together, We recorded the Twilight baseball scene together. I was Edward. And that was just the beginning of it. Like, I love everything vampire. So this was right up my alley. I love the idea of like a Southern Gothic and of like weaving American history in the South into vampire narratives. That's a tradition that I'm really into. So this was really like up my alley. I love Michael B. Jordan, and I don't like horror. I rarely can watch even mildly scary movies. So I kind of like went a little out of my comfort zone with this, but I'm glad I did. It was well worth it. It was so much more than a scary movie. But sometimes I just can't get myself, like I couldn't get myself to watch Weapons. Sorry, but I'm really glad I saw this. Surprise, surprise. Sorry, baby. 5 stars. This is a lot of 5-star movies. I kind of want to demote No Other Choice and KPop Demon Hunters to 4.5. And that's the whole point of the tiers, right? Because as I'm looking at this, I'm like, Hamnet, It Was Just an Accident, One Battle, Sentimental Value, Sinners, and Sorry, Baby. Those were all my favorites of the year. I don't know that I would have said No Other Choice and K-Pop Demon Hunters. Maybe No Other Choice. I don't know. I think those are 4.5 compared. My biggest Oscar snub is Sorry, Baby getting no Oscar noms. Ava Victor deserves better. This was their debut film. The most beautiful, tender, real, authentic slice of life exploration of true platonic love and friendship through trauma, of what it's like in the psyche of a survivor of sexual assault. From a filmmaking point of view, I really, really loved the way that they explored sexual assault and how to portray it on screen without shying away from the reality of it and the darkness of it, but also without sensationalizing, and with having a lot of reverence and respect for survivors who are watching. I just thought it was beautiful. Definitely one of my favorites of the year. I really can't believe it wasn't nominated. That's a real shame. That's a real shame to me. But you have to watch Sorry, Baby. You really do. And then you can go listen to my episode on it. Yay. Okay. Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere. I gave this 3 stars. I didn't know a whole lot about Springsteen. I don't come from an American family who was like part of the Springsteen generation. So everything I know is from like my American friends whose parents were part of the Springsteen generation. But I was interested. I went with my friend Nikki and her whole family, which was so nice that they invited me. We went to Lincoln Center together. And they're a huge Springsteen family. So like they helped explain things to me and kind of explain the context. Nikki came on the podcast as my first ever guest to be my like Springsteen consultant and expert. And we did a whole episode on the movie talking about like from a filmmaking point of view, from my like layman's point of view, what was good and what was missing. And then Nikki had some really valuable insight, having read the book that it's based on and also just being like a lifelong Springsteen fan. She had really great insight into like what she thought was missing from the discussion of the music and the album Nebraska. And we had a really good discussion about that. So highly recommend you go check out that episode. I definitely don't think this is like a must watch unless you're a Springsteen fan. Otherwise, it was pretty boring and you could definitely just listen to my podcast. Sorry. But I'm glad I saw it. I had such a fun experience going to see it with Nikki and her family, and I was really like excited to do that. So I'm glad I saw it. It was a really fun movie night for sure. And I'm glad Nikki like came on the pod with her research and notes and receipts. But as a movie, I didn't love it. Superman. Okay, no, I actually gave Superman 3 stars, but let's use our tier ranking. Let's think about this with our tier ranking. I kind of want to put it in 3.5. I think I'll put it in 3.5 because in hindsight, that's kind of the level it's on. I liked it better than what I'm looking at in my tier 3, in my 3-star tier. So Superman, I'm going to give it 3.5. I found the political messaging of it and the ideas of like masculinity and heroism and morality and like personal responsibility. I found them really like relevant to the times right now. And it was kind of a reminder of like what is good about superhero stories, what is good about comics. And to me, as someone who's not like a super fan, but who, you know, I dabble, I enjoy my superhero stories. To me, it's all about having like a good, strong heart to the story and a message and a lesson. It's about the feeling that you get. And so for me, this Superman did everything that it was supposed to do as a superhero movie. But by virtue of kind of like the genre and the subject matter, I think there's kind of a limitation if you're not a huge Superman or superhero fan of how much you can enjoy it. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fun and cute. And like I said, I really appreciated like the political messaging and the themes. And no matter what James Gunn, you know, says publicly or in interviews explicitly, it was absolutely relevant to the discussion of the genocide of Palestinians by Israel. And I'm glad that that was, you know, kind of front and center in a very mainstream movie. I think that's great. I absolutely love what's his face, David Cornsweet. Oh, what a perfect Superman. He's so cute and likable, like a gentle giant type. I thought he was amazing. I really like Rachel Brosnahan. I thought she was a great Lois Lane. I love Nicholas Hoult, always have. Great Lex Luthor. There were things about it that were just like a little bit unserious, and I think that's why I probably gave it 3 stars originally. And then in hindsight, I have like these positive feelings towards it, so I gave it 4. We're gonna average and settle on 3.5, on par with Caught Stealing, One of Them Days, Secret Agent, and Rental Family. That feels right to me. And surprise, surprise, I have a whole episode on Superman as well. It's one of my earlier episodes. I think it's a funny one. I was in a goofy mood that day. So go listen to or watch my Superman episode if you want. All right, 5 more films to get through. The Phoenician Scheme. Okay, yeah, I gave The Phoenician Scheme 4 stars. I have like my mixed feelings about Wes Anderson, but generally I like him. And this was one of his movies that I liked more than the others. I thought it had more intellectual and emotional depth maybe than other ones, but I also had my basically typical complaints about him being a little bit, I think I said, emotionally constipated, which I stand by. But I really love Benicio del Toro. Love Michael Cera. I thought he was hilarious as Bjorn. I'm Lebanese, and if you don't know, Phoenicia is the ancient civilization that was in what is now modern day Lebanon. And Lebanese people, some have a really strong identity associated with Phoenicia. Some have mixed feelings about it. It's complicated, but I talk a lot about that in my episode on the Phoenician Scheme. I spent the most time of any episode I've ever done talking about this movie because I really wanted to give some like historic and cultural context for it. Wes Anderson's wife is Lebanese, and his father-in-law inspired the main character, Zsa Zsa Korda, played by Benicio del Toro, in this movie. So it just felt relevant to me, and I was curious about his exploration of the Middle East history, culture, and politics. So I had some things to say. I talked about Orientalism, Edward Said, Lebanese identity, sectarianism, you name it. So go check out that episode. I worked really hard on it, and I dressed up as Liesel. Okay. Wicked for good. Wicked for bad, below 3 stars. Another one people got really upset about. Stop taking my opinion personally, please. It's just my opinion. You are allowed to love whatever you love, okay? But I really didn't like this movie. I didn't love the first Wicked, but I was like appreciating it for what it was, and I loved that lifelong fans of Wicked loved it, you know? But for so many reasons, this didn't make sense. A lot of the choices made to adapt this from the stage to the screen were ridiculous, made no sense. Just gaping plot holes, character inconsistencies, weird dialogue, extra songs that I didn't always like, disappointing visuals. It just wasn't enjoyable. I really, really did not like this movie. And you can go listen to my episode to hear me talk more about why. If you're a huge Wicked fan and you loved it, maybe don't listen to it if that's just going to piss you off. But if you want to hear my honest opinion about it and you're curious or you agree with me, go listen to that episode. I think I explained myself pretty well there. Next up, we have Eternity. Oh, I gave Eternity 5 stars. But given the tier ranking, I'm going to put it 4.5 with no other choice in K-pop Demon Hunters. I think that feels right. That's my 4.5 tier. Almost perfect, almost favorite of the year, but not quite. And that's probably partially a genre thing. It is a romantic comedy. It was funny. It was romantic. It was deep. I really liked all 3 leads, Elizabeth Olsen, Miles Teller, and Callum Turner. Yeah, it was a really interesting premise about the afterlife and a meditation and reflection on the choices we make in life and the relationships that we have throughout our lives. It had its share of like genuinely funny moments, and it had its share of genuinely moving moments. It was predictable, which I think is fine in a rom-com. I think that's like a feature of the genre, not a problem necessarily. But because of that, parts of it maybe felt a little bit tedious because I was kind of like, all right, let's get to the point that I know we're getting to. And maybe that's why I ended up with 4.5 instead of 5 stars. But I really liked it, and I found it encouraging in terms of rom-coms being back. I think we need more rom-coms just like that. Not everything has to be a super art house film. It can be fun and funny and heartfelt and still be really good, really solid. So that's where I think Eternity sits. Okay, 2 more. If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You and Wake Up Dead Man. Oof, sorry to end on a low note, but I gave both of these below 3 stars, and those both might be controversial opinions. Hear me out. I gave Wake Up Dead Man 2 stars, and If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You 1 star. Wake Up Dead Man, I think I was mostly just really disappointed because of the hype it was getting and people really loving it. So then I went in with like high expectations, and it was not It did not meet those expectations. It was way too long. It was way too self-indulgent. It was way too literal. Everything said in dialogue. I didn't think the questions that it asked about faith and community were new or interesting or answered in any kind of different way. That's just my personal opinion. You're not gonna like convince me otherwise. I'm sorry. That's how I felt about the movie. I was raised Catholic. I have my experience in the church. I have my opinion about the portrayal of the church and faith. Okay? Not that I was offended by it or anything. I didn't find it like super compelling. I don't think it was a murder mystery. I don't think it was a whodunit in the true sense of the genre. I'm a huge murder mystery fan. I'm an OG Agatha Christie fan. I used to read all my grandma's Agatha Christie books growing up. And I know that Rian Johnson is like also a huge fan. And I just feel like this was not a proper murder mystery because it just wasn't structured in the way that that story should be structured. It was structured in a much more lollygag, roundabout, lingering way. If it weren't for Josh O'Connor, I probably wouldn't have finished the movie, but I love Josh O'Connor enough that I pushed through. Yeah, I think it was about half an hour too long for no reason, and that's one of my major pet peeves in movies, is extra runtime that you don't earn. So, I'm not going to do a full episode on it because I don't love to make like full-length episodes on something I really didn't like unless I feel like I have something valuable to add in that discussion. But I do talk about this in my, I think, December wrap-up of movies I watched. Sorry, that's my take on Wake Up Dead Man. If you loved it and thought it was fun, I'm happy for you. I really am. But it's not for me. I don't think Benoit Blanc is funny or charming. I thought Mila Kunis as the sheriff with a full beat all the time was bizarre. It wasn't for me. All right. If I had legs, I'd kick you. Man, what a disappointment. I was so excited for this. It was a tough movie. I understand that the point was for the main character to be like a complex female lead, a morally gray character, etc., etc. Listen, I'm all for that. Like, I'm all about that. But in this case, I just found it was so dark to me. The idea of like a mother of a disabled child essentially being the ultimate victim. And again, I know that that's not like entirely the point. She is flawed and we're meant to think that she's flawed, but she was so insufferable and so self-pitying and wallowing in self-pity. I really couldn't stand her. And the whole movie really is her. I thought Rose Byrne was amazing, and similar to Blue Moon, like I totally get why she's getting the props for her acting because her performance like is the movie. I just really didn't like the writing. I didn't like the character. Not only did I not like the character, I was not interested in the complexities of the character. I'll give you an example. In Bugonia, Emma Stone plays like a morally complex female lead. I was very compelled by that character. I cared about that character, even though in a lot of ways she's deplorable, okay? In If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, the mother character, I was not compelled or interested. I found so much of her dialogue and interactions with other people to be like deeply insane dialogue that no one on either side would ever say as a human being. Her colleague, also being her therapist, was very weird and confusing. I don't know, guys, it was so weird. And ultimately, to me, it was like kind of emotionally, morally, intellectually devoid of anything. It felt very self-indulgent and very artsy. Negative connotation. Sorry to If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. I really didn't like it. That concludes all of the 2025 releases that I saw or am still planning to see this year and my tier ranking of them. Let's go through one more time. So my top tier, just to reiterate, my absolute favorites of the year, in no particular order, because I can't do an order beyond this, okay? This was hard enough. Hamnet, It Was Just an Accident, One Battle After Another, Sentimental Value, Sinners, and Sorry Baby. Honorable mention, just under that top tier, No Other Choice, K-Pop Demon Hunters, and Eternity. Things I liked: Frankenstein, The Roses, Bugonia, The Phoenician Scheme. 3.5 stars, Rental Family, The Secret Agent, One of Them Days, Caught Stealing, and Superman. And then the last tier that I would say were like pretty good or okay, my 3-star tier: Twinless, Mickey 17, Train Dreams, After the Hunt, Eddington, Marty Supreme, and Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere. Below that, below 3 stars, things that I completely did not like were Blue Moon, J. Kelly, The Smashing Machine, Materialists, The Naked Gun, F1, Wicked for Good, If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, and Wake Up Dead Man. Things I have yet to see, but I will return to this video in like the description or comments once I see them to let you know what rank I put them in. The Voice of Hind Rajab, Zootopia 2, The Testament of Anne Lee, The Chronology of Water, Hedda, Die My Love, and The Running Man. Please let me know if I'm missing anything that you would like to add in the comments to add to my watch list. Maybe there's something that I saw that I forgot to log, that I forgot to mention. I don't know. But in general, I'm happy with the tier list I'm looking at. I think this is an accurate representation of 2025 for me. So I've mentioned throughout this video So many of these movies I have done full-length episodes on, like I have full reviews of. So check those out if you're interested. And let me know if any of them that I haven't done a full review of you would like to see or would like to hear me talk more about. But that's it. That's my tier ranking. Remember to be normal and respectful in the comments. If you disagree with me in a normal, respectful, adult way. Don't get your knickers in a twist. Don't be offended. Just my opinion. Okay? As always, thank you for listening or watching. Like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. Give me a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Yeah, thanks for hanging out. See you next time. Bye.